Why did God have to expel Adam and Eve from the garden after they sinned? Couldn't He just allow them to stay? After all, He's a merciful God. This is among the most interesting and most significant questions one could ask about the first pages of the Bible, but not a lot of people are asking it. It gets even more complicated because of the fact that God had said man should be expelled from the garden so that he could not eat from the fruit of the tree of life and live forever. Why would God deprive spiritually dead creatures of something that could make them live forever? The answer is actually quite plain and simple. It's because they were spiritually dead creatures. The tree of life bore fruit that could give the ones who ate it physical immortality, but it could not cure spiritual deadness. If God had allowed Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of life, He would have made them creatures who were dead in their very being, but were unable to die physically. In other words, He would have damned them within their own selves, forever trapped in their eternally self-consuming lust for evil. It would have been a redemptionless hell for them. So God choosing to exile Adam and Eve from the garden so that they wouldn't be able to eat from the tree of life and live forever was actually an act of mercy, even if mercy meant letting them die for the meantime. Still, couldn't God just remove the tree of life from the garden instead of Adam and Eve? Aren't creatures made in His image more valuable than the tree? Well, it wouldn't have helped either. Corrupt creatures will corrupt wherever you put them. If liars, thieves, murderers, and adulterers were put in a morally perfect place, they would so easily fill it with lies, thefts, murders, and adulteries. So the garden would have quickly ceased to be perfect if God had allowed imperfect creatures to live in it. Most importantly, Adam and Eve weren't actually just being banished from a beautiful garden. They were being banished from the very presence of God. God is holy, and He is so holy His holiness consumes everything that surrounds Him. Adam and Eve turned into unholy beings because of their sinfulness, and God's holiness could not allow sinful beings around Him without consuming them. This was the basis of the entire Old Testament theology and sacrificial system. God's holiness is a consuming fire, and we are faded leaves because of our sinfulness. God cannot allow Adam and Eve into His presence because His holiness would have consumed them, and it would have been hell for them. He could not afford that to happen because He loved them, so He chose to banish them instead and gave them the chance to be redeemed.